You've also mentioned Mayor Karen Bass and Governor Gavin Newsom, and there have been threats, previously that if you stand in the way of your enforcement operations, you could be subject potentially to arrest. Are you saying that about Mayor Bass and Governor Newsom? Are they at risk of being arrested?
I'll say it about anybody. You cross that line.
He's a tough guy. Why doesn't he do that? He knows where to find me. But you know what? Lay your hands off 4-year-old girls that are trying to get educated. Lay your hands off these poor people. They're just trying to live their lives, man. Trying to live their lives, paying their taxes. Been here 10 years. The fear, the horror. The hell is this guy? Come after me, arrest me. Let's just get it over with. Tough guy. I don't give a damn.
Trump border czar Tom Homan and Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom of Florida speaking to NBC's Jacob Soboroff during a weekend of significant unrest in Southern California as protesters took to the streets in response to ICE raids across the Los Angeles area. This morning, the National Guard is on the ground after President Trump deployed thousands of troops there. Jacob Soboroff is standing by in L.A. with the latest, along with NBC News senior Homeland Security correspondent Julia Ainsley. Meanwhile, President Trump is warning Elon Musk there will be very serious consequences if he funds Democratic candidates after their very public falling out. We'll discuss whether Democrats should now be looking to bring Musk back into their fold. Plus, it was a huge sports weekend, unbelievable, with the NBA Finals, the Belmont Stakes, and possibly the best men's final match of all time at the French Open. Pablo Torre will join us with a huge recap. Good morning and welcome to Morning Joe. It is Monday, June 9th, and we have a lot to get to. Our panel this morning, co-host of our fourth hour, contributing writer at The Atlantic, Jonathan Lemire, U.S. special correspondent for BBC News, and the host of The Rest is Politics podcast. Caddy Kay is with us. Senior writer at The Dispatch, David Drucker, is here. He's also a Bloomberg columnist and co-founder and CEO of Axios. Jim Vandehei joins us. So we're entering Day 4 of protests in Los Angeles as demonstrators continue to clash with law enforcement. The protests began on Friday in response to immigration raids. ICE says it arrested 118 people after executing search warrants at multiple locations last week, 44 of whom were taken into custody during Friday's operation. On Saturday, California Governor Gavin Newsom said the situation was under control. This despite clashes being reported. Shortly after, President Trump deployed the National Guard, sending 2,000 members there to intervene. It's the first time in decades this has been done without a request from the governor. And now, Northern Command says 500 Marines are ready to deploy if the situation gets worse. Police have been using tear gas and rubber bullets to disperse the crowds. Earlier, demonstrators spilled onto the 101 freeway, causing it to partially shut down. Authorities say at least 56 people have been arrested so far. Let's bring in NBC News political and national correspondent Jacob Soboroff, live from Los Angeles, and NBC News senior Homeland Security correspondent Julia Ainsley. Now, Jacob, you've been on this developing story all weekend. We heard some of your interviews with Governor Gavin Newsom and the border czar Tom Homan. What is the latest so far at this hour?
Well, Mika, I want to back up to Friday and talk about how unusual the situation is here in Los Angeles. On Friday morning, here in the LA bureau of NBC News, the first reports started coming in of ICE raids across Los Angeles. And the local news had aerial footage of Bearcat, sort of tactical style vehicles going through the streets of Los Angeles. And that's when those first melees broke out. On Friday night, there was a peaceful protest that then did turn into a bit of a skirmish between federal agents and people who are out there protesting, and that scene repeated itself over the course of the next several days with, of course, the president, against the wishes of Governor Newsom, bringing in the National Guard, exercising Title 10 of the U.S. Code to bring in the National Guard to Los Angeles to protect it. It's very specific, federal property and federal agents that are carrying out these raids. The reason I say it's unusual is that this is not, and Julia can talk about this as well or better than I can, this is not the ordinary way that ICE has operated historically in Los Angeles or across the country. But under this, stated mass deportation program of the Trump administration, you are seeing raids at places like Home Depots, where day laborers are. Those were not targeted enforcement areas on a wide scale under Democratic nor Republican administrations previously, and has so many people on edge here in Los Angeles because we're a majority minority city. There are 50% plus people of color in Los Angeles, including many Latinos, including maybe as many as 1 million undocumented people here in the Los Angeles area. So it has devolved into this feud, which Governor Newsom says didn't need to happen. Mayor Bass said didn't need to happen. They do not want the National Guard here. And before the National Guard was here, quite frankly, these types of melees were not happening on the streets of Los Angeles. First, Tom Homan told me that he wasn't ruling out, as you saw at the beginning of the show, arresting Governor Newsom nor Mayor Karen Bass if they got in between the ICE enforcement operations and the federal agents. And then last night in the Emergency Operations Center, I spent some time with Governor Newsom as he monitored the situation here. And I asked him about what Tom Homan had said about arresting him. I want to play a little bit more of that sound for you right now, Mika. Watch this.
He's a tough guy. Why doesn't he do that? He knows where to find me. But you know what? Let your hands off 4-year-old girls that are trying to get educated. Let your hands off these poor people that are just trying to live their lives, man. Trying to live their lives, paying their taxes, been here 10 years. The fear, the horror, the hell is this guy? Come after me, arrest me, let's just get it over with. Tough guy. I don't give a damn. But I care about my community, I care about this community. The hell are they doing? These guys need to grow up, they need to stop, and we need to push back. And I'm sorry to be so clear, but that kind of bloviating is exhausting. So Tom, arrest me. Let's go.
So tough stuff from the governor of California, and caught in between this war of words, which is a feud that's familiar to so many people who have covered the relationship between Gavin Newsom and Donald Trump, are families, many mixed status families that live here in Los Angeles, meaning an undocumented maybe parent or relative and a young child, or even a teenager or somebody older than that who was born here in this country. The thing is, President Trump and Gavin Newsom have been talking behind the scenes, at least since the beginning of this began. I asked him about a phone conversation that they had on Friday night, and he said that they had a relatively cordial conversation, and this didn't come up. I want to give you a little bit more of what Governor Newsom said about his conversation on Friday night, Mika, with the president. Watch this.
Well, under his executive order, it specifically notes, and under what the DOD did, is they had to coordinate with the governor of the state. They never coordinate with the governor of the state. We talked for almost 20 minutes, and this issue never came up. I mean, I kept trying to talk about L.A. He wanted to talk about all these other issues. We had a very decent conversation.
When was this?
This was late Friday night, I think about 1:30 plus his time.
After the protests that started here?
After the protests, and he never once brought up the National Guard. He's a stone-cold liar. He said he did. Stone-cold liar. Never did. It was a very civil conversation. I've always wanted to approach engagement with the President of the United States in a respectful and responsible way. But there's no working with the President. There's only working for him. And I will never work for Donald Trump. Where's your decency, Mr. President? Stop. Rescind this order. It's illegal and unconstitutional. And I said it. I'll say it again. It's immoral. You're creating the conditions that you claim you're solving, and you're not. And you're putting real people's lives at risk.
So that's what this is really all about, putting real people's lives at risk. And, you've heard reports that there are riots on the streets of Los Angeles. There are certainly there has been civil unrest, reports of looting overnight. But on a wide scale, that is not what's happening across the city of Los Angeles. And I think it's important to emphasize that this is also not what was happening before the National Guard came to Los Angeles. That's the point that Governor Newsom is making, and that's why he has asked and said this morning he's filing a lawsuit, Mika, to get that authority back from the President of the United States and remove the deployment of the National Guard on the streets of Los Angeles, because he's saying that's what's inflammatory here. And caught in the crosshairs are these migrant residents of Los Angeles, many of whom have been here most of their entire lives.